Hello everyone, and welcome back to another amazing discussion with Life with Latoya. Want to thank every last one of you that have been continuously following every week. I say it every week because I'm very grateful and appreciative to everyone that joins and be a part of these weekly discussions, showing love and support. Also, if you're joining for the very first time, welcome and thank you for choosing to be a part of this discussion today. I hope if you have not subscribed that you will subscribe to my channel. Today we are going to be going over our 11th key. Yes, we have been talking about the keys to life. Life means living in fulfillment every day, because we believe that every day there's an opportunity for us to be our best selves daily. So today we're going to be talking about fear, defeating fear. And fear is a very challenging, it can be a very challenging, it could be difficult to overcome fear, depending on where you've been in life and how you see life and what lens you see life through. Fear is, we all have faced fear at some point in time. On some level, we deal with some type of level of fear, whether it's fear for an interview, fear of the unknown, fear for a job, fear to go back to school. It could be literal fear because we're in a fearful, dangerous situation. So there are so many different levels of fear and reasons that we deal with fear. A lot of times our fear is tied to where we've been or the unknown of where we're going, as well as the traumas of what we're currently experiencing. So if you are in a domestic violence relationship, or you're living, a dangerous life, or something is happening to you that is causing you to be fearful, you definitely will be dealing with some type of fear. So there's all different reasons why we fear, why we deal with fear. But I don't want to give power to fear. I want to talk mainly about how do we defeat fear. But in order to talk about ways to defeat fear, I want to talk about some of the whys we experience fear, as I just stated. So we deal with fear, like I said, for so many different reasons. One of my greatest fears was parenting. As we know that parenting doesn't come with no guide, and depending on where you've come from, your environment, your background, your traumas and things that you've experienced, based on so many of my traumas from my past, it opened the door to so much fear in my life. On top of, I was raised in fear. So I was raised in a family where everything was, don't do that because what if? Don't go over there. Don't go down there. Don't do that. Don't do this. This might happen, or this might happen. And we all know there's power in our words. And if we have been spoken something, someone has spoken something to us, time and time again, we will begin to believe that, or think like that, or or it can create fear where you're paranoid or always thinking something's going to happen. And that's not always good. Yes, it's good to be alert, to be aware, to be conscious, to make sure that you have that you're choosing safe environments, as safe as we know them to be safe. but we cannot not move forward because we're paralyzed by fear. And for a long time, and I find myself sometimes, even now, having to pull that spirit down, that fear. It'll show up every now and again. And I noticed that fear was either tied to the trauma that I had experienced. Like an example is, if you've been through so much bad things or traumatic experiences, and you get into the unknown of either a dangerous situation or a situation of the unknown that you just don't know the other side to. And we know that when we're walking in the unknown, because we've never experienced it before, there's always a what if. So we'd be like, what if this happened? What if this? What if that? And yes, there's always a possibility for something negative to happen, but not necessarily. And when we don't know, we can't assume. I look at it now, I say, if I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be bad. And either way, I got to believe. I would rather believe for the best than to be in fear of the worst, because I'm not in control, especially when it's something that we got to do anyway. So if you don't have control over something that is challenging you to move forward, but you feel paralyzed, or you feel anxiety or anxious or nervous or fearful because it's the unknown, like I said, you can either think the worst or you could think the positive. Because just because you think the worst doesn't mean that you're going to know until you get there, or you do it anyway. So why not just believe for the best? But I want to talk about a way that I overcame a challenging fear for me. One of my challenging fears was that was challenged in a lot was in my parenting. Parenting in the unknown, and have had so many traumatic experiences, not wanting my children to experience some of the traumatic things that I did, or that I went through, or that I was placed in. So you find yourself worrying and stressing, and you're parenting where you think that you're parenting and you're overprotecting, but really you're parenting out of fear. It's producing the very thing sometimes that you don't even want, because you're motivated by fear versus just being a great parent. And there's a difference. So that was really challenging for me, and letting my kids go, when they got to a certain age, and when I got to a place where I no longer can protect them per se, them being old enough and they gotta go to school, they gotta have a social life. And in those areas where you're dealing with all the what ifs and the unknown of the what ifs, that can really harm or hurt or paralyze their experiences. Your parenting with them effectively and healthy, yes, in one aspect you're controlling the situation, but it's causing a different effect, and a negative one. And I found myself in those situations many times. But when I really realized that it was really due to my own fears from my own past experiences. And moving in the unknown was like a trigger of the what ifs. So I was always like, oh my God, I don't want this to happen, or this to happen, or this to happen. And I began to live my life that way. And I I dealt with fear like that for so long, until I began to heal and really start denouncing what if, not running from it, not making it be the negative, but just one, because of my relationship with God, believing and trusting God in the areas that I wasn't in control over anyway. Even the areas that I was in control of over, I still had to believe for the best, because like I said, the unknown is just that, the unknown. And then when we get in situations that we're dealing with fear because we're in traumatic or unhealthy situations, and that is a different level of fear, and that's a real fear. That means that it's actually not the what if, it is actually, it's still a what if, if you're surviving in it, but it's more detrimental to you because it's not a positive situation. It's not a healthy situation, and it's detrimental for your life, for your mind, for, physically, mentally, emotionally. So defeating fear, we want to definitely face our fears by confronting and getting to the root of why we're fearful. Looking at it and being honest with it. There was a point in time in my parenting, especially with my eldest son, and I had to just say to myself, I'm fearful. I don't know, what he's doing, what's going to happen, what is what. And I just had to just admit it. Like, this stuff is scaring the hell out of me. Sorry for my French, and I had to pray and be truthful about it. Okay, God, you that I don't see the situation appears greater than you that I can't see. And I had to really, really, really deal with it. But when I began to heal and God began to walk me through the level of fear, it really was rooted way before he was even born, because of my past traumatic experiences and what I didn't want him. I dealt with so much of what I didn't want him to become that I was motivated by that. And that became how I began to start parenting him. So I'm parenting him thinking I'm doing a great job parenting him, telling him all that he shouldn't do and what he ain't going to do based on what he could be, not realizing that I was speaking the very things that I didn't want him to become into his life, because it was tied to fear. So I hope that example is helpful. So we have to defeat fear by getting to the root of it, not running from it, but standing and facing it and understanding how we got there in it. Why is this fear here? What is it that, I'm fearful of? What is it? What's the real reason why I'm fearful of this thing? And if it's the unknown, hey, like I said, you don't know anyway. So just believe for the best. I don't know if when I get there, I don't know if I'm going to mess up at the job. I don't know if I'll get the apartment or whatever the case may be. You don't know anyway. So believe for the best. So defeating fear is facing it, owning it, acknowledging it, and getting to the root of it. Why am I really fearful? And if there's an underlining to that, then getting to the bottom of that. Like I said, mine was, what was I really fearful of? And it was the men that I had saw or how they become. I was fearful of my son becoming that. Whether it was, in my personal life from my past, or his the examples on his father's side, or whatever that may be. I had to deal directly with that thing. And that didn't have to be his outcome. Why did I make that his outcome? Why did I believe that to be more real than him being successful and an amazing, outstanding kid. Before he even had a chance to begin, I already was fearful. So I really had to overcome. And one thing that God helped me with is he said, you want me to help him, but I got to first help you, because you're his covering. And if you're fearful, what do you think he's going to be? And there is power in our mouth and in our tongue and in our thoughts. So it's important to pull the false evidence appearing real down and dealing with the truth of it. Is this real? Could this happen? Yes, but does it mean that it has to happen? No. And again, like I said, if it's tied to past places of trauma and that has become so prevalent in your life that you don't even have faith or believe or hopeful for anything positive to happen, then we got to deal with that as well. And get to a place where we're hopeful and that we believe again and that we can see through a different lens by allowing ourselves to heal. And if we're walking in the unknown, believing for the best, whether for the worst. That's all I have for you today. Till next time, God bless.